The last transmission. Commander Zrath stood before the holographic display in the command center of the Galactic Council flagship. The three-dimensional star map rotated slowly, showing the vast territories controlled by the 12-member species of the Council. But there was one section that drew his attention, as it had for the past 6 months. A small yellow star with a blue planet orbiting it. Earth. The Sol system had been marked in red for exactly 183 days. Red meant silent. Red meant no communications, no trade signals, no defensive warnings. Red meant, according to Council protocol, that a civilization had either been destroyed or had chosen isolation. Either way, the Council considered it a resolved problem. Zratha's scales rippled with unease. He was Kr'Thak, a species known for their tactical brilliance and their ability to read patterns in chaos. Something about Earth's silence bothered him deeply. It was too complete, too absolute. When civilizations fell, there were always stragglers, refugees, distress signals that lasted for years. When they chose isolation, there were angry transmissions, warnings to stay away, defensive posturing. Earth had simply stopped talking. "Commander, the Council session is beginning," his aide, Vex, announced from the doorway. The young Kr'Thak's tail swished nervously. "They're expecting your report on the human situation." Zrath turned away from the display. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his people. "Tell me, Vex. When a predator stops roaring, what does that mean?" Vex tilted his head, confused. "That it's dead, sir." "Or that it's hunting," Zrath replied quietly. The Council chamber was a massive spherical room where representatives from 12 species floated in individual gravity fields, arranged in a perfect circle. At the center, a holographic projector displayed whatever data was being discussed. Today, it showed Earth. High Counselor Mixtar of the Venhold Collective spoke first. Her telepathic voice echoed in everyone's mind, tinged with satisfaction. "Commander Zrath, your report on the human situation. The Council wishes to officially close the file on this matter and reallocate defensive resources to more pressing concerns." Zrath moved to the center of the chamber. His image was projected larger than life, standard protocol when addressing the full Council. "Honored members, I must advise against premature closure of the human file. My analysis suggests we may be misinterpreting their silence." A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Counselor Thex of the Regelian Dominion spoke, his crystalline body resonating with contempt. "Commander, the humans launched their last desperate attack on our border stations 6 months ago. They were repelled with minimal losses on our side. Since then, nothing. Their colonies are dark. Their trade routes abandoned. Their homeworld emits no signals. They are finished." "That is precisely what concerns me," Zrath insisted. "In 40 years of warfare, humans never stopped communicating. They broadcasted messages of defiance even as their worlds burned. They sent supply ships through blockades. They fought with whatever they had, wherever they could. This silence is not characteristic of their species." Counselor Mixtar's telepathic voice grew cold. "Perhaps, Commander, they have simply learned the futility of resistance. Even humans must eventually accept defeat." "No," Zrath said flatly. The word hung in the chamber. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably at his tone. "Respectfully, Counselor, you don't understand humans. I've studied them for decades. I was at the Battle of Proxima. I witnessed the defense of Alpha Centauri. I've read every transmission, every intercepted communication. Humans don't give up. They adapt." "Then where are they?" Thex demanded. "If they're so resilient, why haven't we seen a single human ship in 6 months? Why are their colonies abandoned? Explain that, Commander." Zratha's scales darkened, a sign of severe concern among the Kr'Thak. "I can't. That's what worries me. I've sent scout ships to the outer edges of the Sol system. They don't return. I've dispatched surveillance drones. They transmit data for approximately 30 seconds, then go silent. Something is happening in that system, and we're blind to it. Your scouts are probably experiencing equipment failure, Counselor Zur of the Heptoid Swarm suggested. The Sol system has always been unstable. Solar flares, magnetic anomalies. There are natural explanations. All 73 scouts. Zrath challenged. All 142 drones. Every single probe sent in the last 4 months. And yet, our sensors detect no solar flares, no anomalies. Just silence. The council chamber grew quiet. Finally, High Counselor Mixtar spoke again. What are you suggesting, Commander? Zrath pulled up a new holographic display. It showed the positions of Council military assets across their territory. 3 months ago, I noticed something. Small things at first. A patrol ship here, a supply convoy there, disappearing near routes that used to be human trade lanes. I thought they were isolated incidents. Pirates, maybe. Equipment failures. But the pattern has accelerated. In the last 30 days alone, we've lost contact with 47 vessels in sectors adjacent to former human space. You're suggesting the humans are attacking us? Counselor Thexa's voice was incredulous. With what fleet? We destroyed their military. Their shipyards are rubble. Their industrial worlds are ash. I don't know what they're using, Zrath admitted. But I know we're losing ships, and I know it's happening in a pattern that centers on the Sol system. High Counselor Mixtar was silent for a long moment. Her telepathic presence felt heavy, thoughtful. Commander Zrath, you have served the Council well for many years. Your tactical insights have been invaluable. But this sounds like paranoia. The humans are defeated. You're seeing patterns where there are none. Then let me take a fleet to Earth, Zrath proposed. Let me confirm with my own eyes that they're truly gone. If I'm wrong, I'll resign my commission. But if I'm right, if something is happening there that we don't understand, we need to know before it's too late. The counselors conferred privately, their communication channels closed to Zrath. He waited, his 4 eyes never leaving the image of Earth rotating slowly in the holographic display. That blue and green world had produced the most stubborn species the galaxy had ever encountered. The Council had made the mistake of treating humans like every other race they'd subjugated. They'd expected surrender after the first few defeats. Instead, humans had fought harder. Every loss made them more determined, more creative, more dangerous. After what felt like an eternity, High Counselor Mixtar spoke. Very well, Commander. You may take a battle group to investigate. But I'm setting a time limit. You have 30 days to provide evidence of this supposed human threat. If you find nothing, the file will be closed permanently, and you will accept a significant demotion for wasting Council resources. Zrath bowed. Understood, High Counselor. Thank you. As he left the chamber, Vex fell into step beside him. Sir, do you really think the humans are out there? Zrath didn't answer immediately. He thought about the intercepted transmission he'd heard 4 months ago. It had been brief, just a fragment, coming from somewhere deep in the Sol system. It was in English, the primary human language. The words had been simple, but they'd sent ice through his veins. They're coming. Yes, Zrath finally said to Vex. I think they're out there. And I think we're about to discover what happens when you push a species to the brink of extinction. Humans don't surrender, Vex. They evolve. 3 days later, Commander Zratha's battle group crossed into what had once been human space. 20 warships, the pride of the Galactic Council's military might. They moved in formation, weapons hot, sensors sweeping constantly for any sign of threat. They found nothing but ghosts. Empty space stations. Abandoned colonies. Debris fields where orbital platforms had once stood. Everything was exactly as the Council's initial reports had described. Dead space. No life. No signals. No humans. But Srath noticed something else. Something the others had missed. Every single human installation they passed had been methodically stripped. Not destroyed by weapons fire, but dismantled. Every piece of useful technology, every scrap of valuable material, every data core, gone. Someone had harvested these stations with surgical precision. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting a large object ahead. Just outside the orbit of Jupiter." On screen, Srath commanded. The view screen showed a massive structure floating in the darkness. It was unlike anything Srath had ever seen. Black as the void itself, angular and geometric, it was at least 5 kilometers long. As they approached, sensors began providing more data. "Commander, that structure is emitting a faint power signature. It's active." "Hail it," Srath ordered. Silence. "Send a probe." Full sensor sweep. The probe launched, streaking toward the black structure. For 30 seconds, it transmitted data. Energy readings, composition analysis, thermal scans. Then, just like all the others, it went silent. But those 30 seconds were enough. Srath stared at the data on his screen, his scales going pale. The structure wasn't Galactic Council technology. It wasn't made from any known materials. And its energy signature was completely unique. It was human. But it was unlike anything humans had built before the war. "Sir, multiple contacts," the sensor officer shouted. "They're appearing all around us. 40, 60, 100. Sir, we're surrounded." Srath looked at the tactical display. Ships were materializing out of nowhere, emerging from some kind of stealth technology that shouldn't exist. They were all similar in design to the black structure. Angular, predatory, wrong. Battle stations. Srath commanded. "All weapons." A voice cut through every speaker on the bridge. It was human, but cold and mechanical, processed through some kind of synthesizer. When it spoke, Srath finally understood why Earth had been so silent. "You came to check if we were dead. We're not. We've been busy. Learning. Building. Preparing. You taught us that mercy is weakness. You taught us that surrender means death. You taught us well. Now it's your turn to learn." The transmission ended. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the darkness lit up with weapons fire, and Commander Srath realized that the galaxy's greatest predators had just returned from extinction. And they were hungry. The hunters return. The first volley tore through the Council fleet like a knife through flesh. Srath watched in horror as 3 of his warships simply ceased to exist. No explosion. No debris. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, reduced to atoms by weapons that shouldn't be possible. Evasive maneuvers. Srath shouted over the chaos of alarms and screaming crew members. "Return fire. All ships, return fire." The Council ships opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, kinetic missiles, the combined firepower of 20 warships that had conquered a dozen star systems. The weapons struck the black human vessels dead on. And did absolutely nothing. "Impossible," Vex whispered from his station, staring at the tactical display. "Our weapons aren't even scratching them. It's like they have shields we can't penetrate." Sratha's mind raced. Shields weren't the answer. He'd seen the sensor data in those brief seconds before the probe died. These ships didn't have shields in the traditional sense. Their hulls were made of something that absorbed energy, redirected it, made it useless. The humans had found a way to make their ships immune to conventional weapons. Another Council warship exploded, this time with a brilliant flash that lit up the darkness. Then another. The human ships moved with impossible grace, weaving through the Council formation like predators among prey. They were fast, far faster than any ship their size should be. "Sir, we've lost 8 ships," the tactical officer reported. "The enemy count is still rising. 140 contacts now. They keep appearing out of nowhere." "Stealth technology," Zrath muttered. "They've been building this fleet right under our sensors, and we never saw them." He slammed his fist on the command chair. How long were they planning this? The answer came through another transmission. The same cold, mechanical voice from before. 6 months. That's how long we stayed silent. That's how long we needed to build what you see before you. You thought we were hiding. We were forging. Every attack you made on us, every colony you burned, every human life you took, we learned from it. We studied your technology. We adapted. We evolved. Zrath tried to trace the transmission source, but it was coming from everywhere at once. Every human ship was broadcasting it simultaneously. "This is Commander Zrath of the Galactic Council Military Forces. I call for immediate cessation of hostilities. We can negotiate." "No." The voice was flat, emotionless. "You had 40 years to negotiate. You chose war. You chose genocide. Now you face the consequences. This is not an invasion, Commander. This is an extermination." 5 more Council ships died in rapid succession. The human vessels were using some kind of beam weapon that didn't behave like anything Zrath had encountered. It wasn't plasma or particles or lasers. It was something new, something that cut through armor and shields as if they didn't exist. "All ships, form defensive sphere." Zrath commanded. "Concentrate fire on single targets. We need to bring at least one of them down." The surviving 12 Council warships pulled together, forming a protective formation. Their combined firepower focused on the nearest human vessel. For 30 seconds, they poured every weapon they had into that single ship. It ignored them completely and destroyed 2 more Council warships. "Sir, we have to retreat," Vex said urgently. "We can't fight this. We need to warn the Council." Zrath knew his aide was right, but the tactical situation was grim. The human ships had them surrounded in a perfect sphere. Every escape vector was covered. It was a trap, and they'd walked right into it. "Helm, plot a jump to the nearest Council station. All power to engines and jump drives. We're breaking through." "Sir, if we jump from inside a gravity well this strong?" "I know the risks." Zrath snapped. "But staying here means certain death. At least this way, some of us might make it. All ships, follow us out. Emergency jump on my mark." The remaining Council vessels formed up behind Zrath's flagship. Their engines flared to maximum power as they accelerated toward the thinnest part of the human formation. The black ships moved to intercept, but they were a fraction of a second too slow. "Jump!" Zrath commanded. Space folded. Reality twisted. The Council ships vanished from the Sol system in a cascade of exotic particles and bent physics. It was a desperate, dangerous maneuver. Jumping from deep in a star system risked everything: hull integrity, navigation accuracy, crew survival. But it was their only chance. The transition felt like being torn apart and reassembled. Zrath's 4 eyes watered. His scales felt like they were being peeled from his body. Around him, crew members cried out in pain. Some collapsed. But the ship held together, and after what felt like an eternity, they emerged back into normal space. "Status report." Zrath gasped. "We made it, sir," the helm officer said weakly. "We're approximately 12 light-years from Sol. Near the Arcturus sector." "How many ships survived?" A long pause. 3, sir. Including us. Out of 20 warships, only 3 had made it out. 17 ships destroyed in less than 10 minutes. It was the worst military disaster in Galactic Council history. Get me a comm link to Council High Command, Zrath ordered. Maximum priority. And someone check on the wounded. I want casualty reports within. Sir. The sensor officer's voice was high with panic. Multiple contacts, bearing down on us from all vectors. It's them. They followed us. Zrath felt his blood turn cold. That's impossible. We jumped. We left them behind. They couldn't track us through a jump, not from that distance, not with those variables. But the tactical display showed the truth. Dozens of black human ships were emerging from jump space all around them. They'd not only tracked the Council fleet, they'd anticipated exactly where they'd emerge and arrived first. They're not using our technology anymore, Vex said quietly. They've built something completely different. Something better. The mechanical voice returned. Did you think we'd let you go? Did you think you could bring a fleet into our home and simply leave? You came to confirm we were dead, Commander's wrath. Instead, you've confirmed that you will be. Listen to me. Zrath broadcast on all channels. I know humans are listening. I know you're controlling these ships. I studied your species for decades. I respect you. I was against the war from the beginning. I argued in council sessions that diplomacy was possible. I'm not your enemy. Silence. Then, you're wrong, Commander. You are our enemy. Every member of the council is our enemy. Every species that voted to exterminate us. Every soldier who fired on our worlds. Every politician who called us primitive. You all made the same mistake. You thought we were weak because we valued life. You thought we were naive because we sought peace. You didn't understand that our kindness was a choice, not a weakness. And now that choice has been revoked. The human ships opened fire. But this time, something different happened. Instead of immediately destroying the council vessels, the weapons disabled them. Precision strikes took out engines, weapons, communications. Within seconds, all 3 council ships were dead in space, powerless and helpless. Sir, they're boarding us, the security chief announced. Multiple contacts, decks 7 through 11. They're cutting through the hull. Zrath stood from his command chair. He straightened his uniform, a gesture of dignity in the face of certain death. Around him, his crew looked to him for leadership, for hope. He had none to give them. All personnel, stand down, he said quietly. Do not resist. Maybe if we surrender, they'll show mercy. Even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. He'd studied humans long enough to know they didn't forget. They didn't forgive. And after 40 years of the council trying to wipe them out, mercy was probably the last thing on their minds. The bridge doors exploded inward. Zrath expected armed soldiers, weapons trained, ready to execute them all. Instead, what walked through the smoke made his scales go pale with terror. They looked human. Mostly. But something was wrong, off, uncanny. Their eyes glowed with a faint blue light. Their movements were too precise, too synchronized. They wore armor that seemed to merge with their skin, black as the ships they'd arrived in. And when one of them spoke, the voice was the same mechanical tone that had been broadcasting through the speakers. Commander's wrath. Karthak. Age 73 standard years. Military service record 48 years. Specialist in xenopsychology and tactical analysis. You studied humanity. You understood us better than any other council member. That's why you're still alive. The figure stepped closer. Now that Zrath could see it up close, he realized the horror of what he was looking at. It was human, but augmented. Extensively. Mechanical components had been integrated into organic tissue. Neural implants glowed beneath translucent skin. The being before him was part person, part machine, part something else entirely. What are you? Zrath whispered. We are what we needed to become to survive, the figure replied. When you attacked us, you had superior numbers, superior weapons, superior technology. We couldn't beat you as we were. So we changed. We enhanced ourselves. We merged with our machines. We sacrificed our humanity to save humanity. We are the Ascended. We are Earth's new children. And we are your reckoning. The Council will send fleets, Srath said, trying to sound defiant. Hundreds of ships. Thousands. You can't fight the entire galaxy. We don't need to fight the entire galaxy, the Ascended replied. We just need to destroy the Council. The rest will fall in line or face the same fate. You taught us that overwhelming force is the only language the galaxy understands. We learned that lesson well. Another Ascended approached, carrying a data pad. Commander, you will carry a message back to the Council. You will tell them what you've seen here. You will tell them that humanity is coming. And you will tell them that surrender is their only option. Why would you let me go? Srath asked. Why not just kill me? Vex helped Srath to his feet. Sir, what do we do? Srath touched the back of his neck. He could feel the implant there, foreign and invasive. We do what they want. We go back. We deliver their message. And we pray that the Council believes us before it's too late. But even as he gave the order to set course for the nearest Council station, Srath knew the truth. It was already too late. The humans had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. They'd transformed themselves, built an unstoppable fleet, and planned every move with cold precision. The Council had thought they were winning a war. They'd actually been creating the perfect enemy. As his damaged ship limped away from the ambush site, Srath looked back one last time. The black human vessels were already gone, vanished back into whatever stealth technology allowed them to appear and disappear at will. They were ghosts. They were nightmares. They were unstoppable. And they were heading for every Council world simultaneously. The hunter had become the hunted. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Reckoning. Commander Sratha's battered flagship emerged from jump space near the Council's primary military station at Vega Prime. Alarms immediately blared as defense systems locked onto the damaged vessel, identifying it as a potential threat. But within seconds, the automated systems recognized Council transponder codes and stood down. This is Vega Prime Station to unidentified Council vessel. You are leaking plasma and radiating distress signals across multiple frequencies. State your identity and status immediately. Srath activated the communication channel, his voice hoarse from exhaustion and pain. This is Commander Srath aboard the flagship Resolute. I carry an emergency priority message for the full Council. We were attacked in the Sol system. We've lost 17 ships. I repeat, 17 ships destroyed. This is not a drill. Humanity is still alive, and they're more dangerous than we ever imagined. There was a long pause on the other end. Commander, please stand by. We're dispatching emergency medical and repair teams. Can you confirm your last transmission? Did you say humanity? Yes, Srath said bitterly. The species we thought we'd exterminated. They're very much alive. And they're coming. Within hours, Srath found himself standing before the full Galactic Council once again. But this time was different. He wasn't making recommendations or presenting theories. He was delivering a warning. And the neural implant at the base of his skull was already beginning to activate. High Counselor Mixstar's telepathic voice filled his mind. Commander Srath, your report is disturbing. But it strains credibility. You're claiming that humanity, a species we defeated thoroughly, has somehow built a fleet capable of destroying 17 of our warships in minutes. Not claiming, High Counselor. Stating fact. Srath felt the implant beginning to pulse. And I'm about to show you proof whether I want to or not. Before anyone could respond, Sratha's eyes rolled back. His body went rigid. And through every speaker in the council chamber, through every holographic projector, through every connected system, the neural implant began transmitting everything Zrath had experienced. The counselors watched in horrified silence as the battle played out before them. They saw the black ships appear from nowhere. They saw council warships disintegrate under weapons that shouldn't exist. They saw the ascended board Zratha's ship, their glowing eyes and merged flesh-machine bodies. They heard the cold mechanical voice deliver humanity's ultimatum. When the transmission ended, the chamber was silent for a full minute. No one spoke. No one moved. They just witnessed their worst nightmare made real. Finally, Counselor Thex broke the silence. This is a trick. Some kind of simulation. Propaganda. It's real, Zrath said quietly. Every second of it. I was there. I felt it. I watched good soldiers die because we underestimated what humans could become when we tried to destroy them. Even if this is real, Counselor Zur said, his voice shaking, this is one fleet in one system. We control hundreds of systems. We have thousands of ships. We can mobilize. The chamber's main display suddenly activated without authorization. Every counselor turned to look as the mechanical voice they'd heard in Zratha's transmission filled the room. Greetings, Galactic Council. This is the Unified Earth Collective. You know us better as humanity. We have a message for you. The display showed a star map of council space. As they watched, red markers began appearing across the map. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Each marker represented a human fleet position. What you're seeing is our current deployment, the voice continued. While you were celebrating our extinction, we were building. While you were dividing our territories among yourselves, we were planning. While you slept in your arrogance, we were becoming something new. Something you cannot defeat. High Counselor Mixstar found her telepathic voice. This is an act of war. You attack us, and every species in the galaxy will unite against you. You already united against us, the voice replied. 40 years ago. You tried to exterminate us. You failed. Now it's our turn. The red markers on the map began moving. All of them. Simultaneously. Each one was heading toward a different council world. This is your only warning, the voice said. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to exist under Earth's protection. Resist, and you will share the fate you intended for us. You have 24 hours to respond. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Counselors were shouting, arguing, panicking. Some demanded immediate military mobilization. Others called for diplomatic solutions. A few suggested evacuation of their homeworlds. Zrath watched it all with a strange sense of detachment. The implant had done its job. The message had been delivered. Now the council would have to face the consequences of their actions. He almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Order. High Counselor Mixstar's telepathic shout cut through the chaos. We need a coordinated response. Commander Zrath, how long do we have before those fleets reach our worlds? Zrath checked the star map, running calculations in his head. Based on their demonstrated jump capabilities, they could hit every marked world within 12 hours. Maybe less. Then we mobilize everything, Counselor Thex declared. Every ship, every defense platform, every planetary shield. We show these upstart humans what it means to challenge the Council. That's exactly what they want you to do, Zrath said tiredly. Don't you see? They're not just attacking. They're provoking a response. They want you to commit your forces so they can destroy them all at once. This isn't a war. It's an execution. Then what do you suggest? Counselor Zur demanded. That we surrender. That we bow to these things that used to be human. I suggest we accept reality, Zrath replied. We created this. Every attack we made on them, every colony we burned, every human we killed, we taught them that peace was impossible. We taught them that survival requires absolute strength. And they learned that lesson perfectly. Now we're facing the consequences. I will not surrender to inferior species, Counselor Thex said coldly. I will die first. You might get that chance, Srath said. The debate raged for hours. But in the end, arrogance won over wisdom. The council voted to resist. They mobilized their fleets, activated planetary defenses, and prepared for war. They believed that their superior numbers would prevail. They believed that humanity, no matter how advanced, couldn't possibly fight the entire galaxy. They were wrong. The attacks began exactly 12 hours after the warning. Across council space, human fleets emerged from jump space with perfect synchronization. They struck military targets with surgical precision. Defense platforms, shipyards, command centers, all destroyed in the opening minutes. On the Karthak homeworld, Srath watched through observatory telescopes as the battle unfolded in orbit. The Karthak defense fleet was one of the most powerful in the council. 300 warships, backed by orbital weapons platforms that could level continents. The humans destroyed them in 20 minutes. Srath watched as the black ships moved through the Karthak formations like sharks through fish. Every weapon the Karthak deployed was useless. Every tactic they employed was countered. It wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration of absolute technological superiority. Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from over a dozen worlds, Vex reported from the communications station. The Heptoid swarms have capitulated completely. The Rigelian Dominion is requesting terms. Even the Venhold Collective is considering. It doesn't matter, Srath interrupted. The humans aren't here to conquer. They're here to restructure. They're going to remake the galaxy in their image, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. As if to prove his point, the human fleet in Karthak space suddenly stopped firing. The surviving Karthak ships were disabled but intact, drifting in orbit. Then the transmission came. People of Karthak. Your government chose war. You are now witnessing the price of that choice. But you are not our enemy. Your leaders are. Your military command is. Any who continue to resist will be eliminated. Those who stand down will be spared. You have 1 hour to decide. Across the homeworld, Srath watched as military installations went dark. Soldiers abandoned their posts. Commanders surrendered their forces. Within 45 minutes, the Karthak military had effectively ceased to exist. The pattern repeated across council space. World after world, species after species, the same choice was offered. Surrender or die. And faced with an enemy they couldn't hurt, equipped with weapons they couldn't counter, one by one, they chose to live. 3 days after the human offensive began, it was over. The Galactic Council, which had ruled hundreds of systems for thousands of years, ceased to exist. In its place, humanity established what they called the Galactic Collective, a new government with representation from every species, but with Earth holding veto power over all major decisions. Srath found himself summoned to Earth, to the new collective headquarters in orbit above the planet. He expected execution or imprisonment. Instead, he was offered something he never anticipated. We want you to lead the collective's military, the Ascended Commander told him. The same one who had boarded his ship and implanted the neural device. You understood us. You tried to warn the Council. You were the only one who saw what we were becoming. That makes you valuable. Srath looked at the being before him. Up close, without the terror of battle clouding his judgment, he could see traces of humanity still present. The shape of the face, the structure of the bones. But those glowing blue eyes were something else entirely. Windows into a consciousness that was no longer purely organic or purely digital, but something in between. Why would I help you? Srath asked. You destroyed my civilization. No, the Ascended replied. Your civilization destroyed itself when it tried to exterminate us. We just accelerated the process. But we're not monsters, Commander. We don't want to rule through fear. We want to build something better than the Council. Something fair. Something that doesn't require genocide to maintain power. And we need people like you to make that possible. People who will keep you honest. Zrath suggested. People who will remind us what we used to be, the Ascended said quietly. We sacrificed our humanity to save our species. We know what we've lost. We know what we've become. But we hope that with guidance, with perspective from those who haven't changed, we can build something that honors both what we were and what we've become. Zrath thought about it for a long moment. He thought about his crew, dead in the void. He thought about his world, conquered and occupied. He thought about 40 years of pointless war that had led to this moment. I have conditions, he finally said. Name them. No more genocide. No more extermination campaigns. No species gets destroyed for being inconvenient or threatening. If the collective is going to rule the galaxy, it rules with justice, not terror. The Ascended nodded slowly. Agreed. What else? The neural implants. Everyone who has them gets them removed. No more forced compliance. No more involuntary recording devices in people's heads. That will take time, but yes. Agreed. And one more thing, Zrath said. I want the truth. All of it. What happened to Earth during those 6 months? What did you really do to yourselves? The Ascended was silent for a long moment. When it finally spoke, there was something in the mechanical voice that might have been sadness. Are you sure you want to know? I need to know, Zrath said. If I'm going to help you build this new order, I need to understand what it cost you. Very well. Come with me. The Ascended led Zrath deep into the orbital station, down corridors that grew progressively darker and colder. They passed other Ascended, each one a fusion of human and machine, each one watching Zrath with those unsettling glowing eyes. Finally, they reached a massive chamber at the station's core. Inside, Zrath saw something that would haunt his dreams for the rest of his life. Thousands of humans. Tens of thousands. All of them connected to massive machines, their bodies partially transformed, their minds linked to vast computer networks. They floated in suspension fields, their eyes closed, their faces peaceful. But they weren't sleeping. They were thinking. Processing. Computing. This is the price we paid, the Ascended explained. To build the fleet you saw, to develop the technology that defeated you, we needed processing power beyond anything organic minds could provide. So we volunteered. Millions of us. We underwent the transformation. We gave up our bodies, our individuality, our humanity. We became processing nodes in a vast network. The Ascended you see walking around are just avatars, mobile extensions of this collective consciousness. Zrath stared in horror. You turned yourselves into living computers. We turned ourselves into whatever we needed to be to survive, the Ascended replied. Every person here volunteered. Every mind here joined willingly. They knew what they were sacrificing. They did it anyway, because the alternative was extinction. This is the price of victory, Commander. This is what it took to save our species from annihilation. Are they still, themselves? Zrath asked. Do they still have individual thoughts? Feelings? Dreams? Yes and no, the Ascended said. Their identities persist within the network. They can still think and feel. But they experience existence differently now. They're part of something larger than themselves. They share thoughts, memories, sensations with millions of others. It's a form of immortality, in a way. But it's also a kind of death. They'll never walk on a planet again. Never feel the sun on their skin. Never hold another person. They gave up everything physical to become something purely mental. Zrath felt sick. And this is what you want? This is the future you're building? No, the Ascended said firmly. This is the past. This is what we had to do to survive your war. But now that we've won, now that we have the time and resources, we're working on alternatives. We're researching ways to restore these people to their original forms. We're developing technology that gives us power without sacrifice. But that will take time. Decades, maybe centuries. Until then, this is what we are. This is the cost of your council's mistake. Zrath looked at the Ascended. Do you regret it? What you've become? The glowing blue eyes regarded him for a long moment. Every second of every day. But we'd do it again if we had to. Because we're still here. Humanity survives. And that's all that matters. Zrath turned away from the chamber, unable to look at the suspended humans any longer. I'll help you. I'll lead your military. I'll try to make sure this new collective is better than what came before. But I'm doing it for them. For everyone who sacrificed themselves because the council was too arrogant to seek peace. Their sacrifice won't be meaningless. I'll make sure of that. Thank you, Commander, the Ascended said. Welcome to the new age. As Zrath left the chamber, he looked back one last time at the floating forms, the living minds that had given up their humanity to save their species. He thought about the galaxy that had once mocked humans for their weakness, their idealism, their reluctance to embrace the brutal realities of interstellar politics. That galaxy no longer existed. In its place was a new order, built on the graves of old empires and the sacrifice of millions who had been pushed too far. The Council had tried to teach humanity that mercy was weakness. Instead, they'd taught them that survival required transformation. And humanity had learned that lesson too well. The hunters had become the hunted. The prey had become the apex predators. And the galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating humans again. Somewhere in the vast network of merged consciousness, millions of human minds thought in unison, their collective awareness processing information at speeds that defied organic limitation. They'd sacrificed their bodies, their individuality, their very humanity. But they'd achieved their goal. Humanity had survived. And in surviving, they'd become something that could never be threatened again. The age of the Council was over. The age of the Ascended had begun. And the galaxy would have to learn to live with what it had created.